Welcome, fellow fans of ReZero. If you've made it through Season 3, Episode 8, and find yourself eagerly awaiting what comes next, you're in the right place. This chapter, taken from the ReZero web novel, Arc 5, Chapter 49, titled Thus Opens the Crusade Against Greed, dives into the intense clash between Subaru and his companion Reinhard against the formidable Regulus. For those of you unable to wait for the next anime release, this is the perfect moment to dive into the source material and uncover what happens next. Subaru burst through the grand doors of the church, his footsteps echoing as he dashed inside. The sight that greeted him was both stunning and surreal. Emilia, standing before the altar in a snow-white wedding dress. Her long, silvery hair was braided elegantly atop her head, making her beauty utterly breathtaking. Under different circumstances, Subaru would have been struck speechless, eager to bask in the radiance of her bridal appearance. But this was no ordinary wedding. Subaru! Emilia's voice called out, a mix of relief and desperation. Subaru's thoughts swirled, but he forced himself to focus. "I'll sort out my feelings about EMT later," he muttered, his tone sharp with urgency. "Looks like we've crashed the party." Reinhard, standing beside him, surveyed the scene. Emilia and Regulus were locked in a heated glare, tension crackling between them like a live wire. "The ceremony was already in disarray," Reinhard noted calmly, "though we'll still be seen as the intruders." Across the room, Regulus's face darkened. His eyes, already brimming with impatience, now burned with fury. Tugging at the front of his suit, he snarled, his lips curling into a venomous sneer. "Uninvited guests," Regulus hissed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do you realize this wedding is about to become a funeral? Such a joyous occasion turning to lament. But then again, you needn't trouble yourselves with such thoughts. Soon enough, you'll be the ones to bid farewell." Subaru didn't miss a beat. "Seriously, man, what are you rambling about? You just got rejected right before the wedding and the bride's so done with you she's already considering a Narita divorce. Show a little dignity. And hey," Subaru tilted his head toward Reinhard, "didn't you catch my introduction?" Regulus's expression flickered with momentary surprise before his arrogance returned. "Oh, the Sword Saint? I've heard the name. Isn't he just some relic of a bygone era, a man who knows nothing beyond swinging a sword? What do you think he's going to do here? You brought him as your trump card. That's laughable. Glory, lineage, tradition, all meaningless in the face of progress. Are you two here to prove me wrong?" Reinhard remained unshaken, his voice steady and calm. "Knows of nothing but swinging a sword, you say? It's true that many of my duties arise from that very skill. However," he added, his hand moving subtly toward the celestial blade at his side, "there's a slight problem. The sword, its hilt adorned with intricate engravings carved by a dragon's claws, remained sheathed. Reinhard's grip on it was firm, yet he shook his head. "What's wrong?" "Reinhard," Subaru asked, a hint of unease creeping into his voice. Reinhard replied, his tone almost apologetic. "The dragon sword is an unrivaled weapon passed down through the Estrella lineage, but it has a peculiar flaw. It refuses to be drawn against enemies it deems unworthy." Subaru's stomach dropped. "You're saying, it seems this opponent doesn't meet the sword's standards," Reinhard confirmed with a calm certainty. Subaru winced. The weight of Reinhard's words wasn't lost on him. He'd seen the blade refuse to appear before, during a clash with Elsa. Yet here, the insult was particularly cutting. Regulus's face twisted in outrage. "A sword saint who can't even unsheath his weapon? How pathetic! Know your place, you miserable fool! You're not even worthy to stand in the presence of my perfection. A wretch like you, clinging to outdated notions of worth, dares to challenge someone as divine as me?" His words dripped with condescension, yet Reinhard's serene expression didn't waver. "You really think you're all that, huh?" Subaru said, his voice sharp as he stared into Regulus's intense eyes. Despite the dangerous look in Regulus's gaze, Subaru found himself surprised. Ignoring the threats, Subaru focused on the meaning behind his words. "You're so full of yourself, aren't you? Calling yourself perfect? But you fall apart the moment you compare yourself to anyone else." Subaru shot back, his tone laced with mockery. Regulus's face twisted with fury. "You lowlife! Don't you dare talk down to someone as flawless as me!" Enraged by Subaru's taunts, Regulus finally acted. With hostility, he stomped the ground near the altar. The impact was terrifying. Cracks splintered across the stone floor, and chunks of wood and stone exploded outward in a violent wave of destruction. Whoa! Subaru yelped, instinctively bracing himself. "Subaru, this way!" came Reinhard's calm voice. Before Subaru could process what was happening, a powerful force yanked him out of harm's way. It was Reinhard, who had grabbed him by the neck and pulled him aside with ease. A strong gust of wind followed, sweeping Subaru out of the dangerous torrent of debris. Reinhard gently set Subaru back on his feet and turned to face Regulus. But before he could act, Regulus shouted, "Don't move! Try anything and they'll all regret it in an instant!" Reinhard froze, his piercing gaze locked on Regulus, who now had his hands pressed against the church walls. Rows of women stood nearby, dressed in elegant gowns. They showed no fear or emotion, standing silently despite the chaos around them. Subaru's brow furrowed. "Wait a minute, who are these women?" Regulus smirked. "They're my wives, all of them. Beautiful, loving companions who cherish me as much as I cherish them. Would you really let such innocent souls suffer? How heartless could you be?" Subaru grimaced. "Okay, I had my suspicions, but trying to make sense of this is impossible." Regulus's twisted logic was like hitting a brick wall. Calling these women his innocent wives while holding them captive made no sense, yet somehow it was both unsettling and horrifying. Regulus continued, his tone sickeningly self-righteous. "It's not like I want anything bad to happen to them. But if you force my hand, I'll have no choice. I'll make them pay the price one by one, starting at the beginning. Making me do something so terrible, it's just cruel." Subaru shot back. "What are you even talking about? Nobody's forcing you to do anything." "Don't nitpick," Regulus barked, his eyes blazing. "Sure, I'd be the one doing it, but it's really your fault. You pushed me to this point. You're the real villains, heartless betrayers." His deranged rant was both infuriating and chilling. Despite how nonsensical his words were, Regulus seemed completely unfazed by his own twisted reasoning. Meanwhile, Subaru tried to buy time. He subtly glanced at Reinhard, hoping for a plan. But the situation was grim. Regulus had around 50 hostages, and if both walls of the church came down at once, even someone as powerful as Reinhard wouldn't be able to save everyone. Subaru. If this continued, they'd be stuck in a stalemate. No, this was playing out exactly how Regulus wanted it to. However, just as Subaru was caught in his thoughts, "Emilia, have you forgotten about me already?" "Huh?" Celestial lights began to dance beside Regulus. In an instant, the light filled the entire church. In the next, a sharp, crystalline sound echoed. The light and sound intertwined, resonating together, forming a clear melody that reverberated through the temple. At the same time, a magnificent enchantment of ice appeared at the center of the room. This enchantment formed around the altar, creating a sanctuary of ice that protected the women Regulus had taken hostage. Additionally, the ice immobilized Regulus, freezing his legs to the ground, while a sharp, frozen sword pressed against his neck, its origin traced back to Emilia's hand. Emilia stood firm, her voice resolute as she said, "You underestimated me. Even I wouldn't jump headfirst into a fight with you without preparation. I worked hard to freeze you like this. You've lost." Regulus, unimpressed, responded with a dismissive tone. "You really can't read the room, can you? Right now, I'm supposed to be forcing to back down, showing my righteous resolve against despicable enemies. And my wives, they all believe in me, praying for my victory. Who do you think you are to disrupt that?" Emilia's gaze didn't waver. "Release everyone immediately. Even though no one says it, some of them stay with you because they're scared. If you care for them at all, you should cherish the ones who try to support you." Regulus sneered. "Really? Who do you think you're lecturing? Looks like I made the right choice, not including you as one of my wives." "Huh?" Emilia let out, startled by his response. Before anything more could be said, Subaru shouted, "Emilia, no! This won't be enough to stop him!" Ordinarily, this would have marked the end of the confrontation. Emilia's decision wasn't wrong. However, her opponent was beyond the limits of ordinary humanity. With an irritated sigh, Regulus muttered, "Ch!" Slowly he began to twist his frozen limbs. The slight motion sent cracks spreading through the ice encasing his legs. The frozen prison began to crumble, the icy sanctuary around him melting into fragments. Before Amelia could react, Regulus shattered the remaining ice and lunged forward, grabbing her by the neck. With one hand, he effortlessly lifted her off the ground. His voice was cold and biting as he spoke. "You dare to challenge me with such arrogance, and to think you speak of virtue without understanding your place. Your spirit is as impure as your intentions, deceptive and manipulative. How bold to act against me after everything I've done for others." Amelia struggled, her breath coming in short gasps. "Who? Who?" Regulus's eyes narrowed, his tone laced with disdain. "That face of yours, just how much deceit has it hidden? A simple smile, and you'd capture the trust of countless people. A soft word, and you'd gain their attention. A single act of kindness, and gifts would flow to you. Such an audacious approach! Stop it! Let her go now!" Subaru's voice rang out, filled with anger and desperation. Regulus turned to him, his glare icy and dismissive. "How clueless are you that you still can't grasp the situation? Or are you someone who's given up on trying to understand? I'm explaining this clearly, yet here you are, unwilling to think things through. People like you, who refuse to see the bigger picture, waste the generosity of those trying to help. How about trying to stand in someone else's shoes for once? Isn't your inability to interact properly just embarrassing?"